for this meeting of the Sonoma City Council, Monday, September 21st, 2020, the year of everything. We're going to go ahead and start this regular meeting, call it to order. We did have a closed session prior to the meeting, so I'll go ahead and let our City Attorney Jeff Walter report out if there's anything to report.
Thank you, Mayor. The council did meet in closed session for the reasons posted on the agenda. It took no action requiring reporting out at this time.
Thank you, sir. And we'll move on and go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll bring Stars and Stripes up here. There she is. Beautiful. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice for all.
Almost forgot it in the middle there, but I held it strong. So you guys know, I put everybody on mute because otherwise it's like this crazy, like everybody's I can't do it if it's going there. So we're back on. Public comment process for virtual meetings. The way this works, we're having a virtual meeting, so you can either public comment by raising your hand virtually or dial *9 if you're on your phone. That either way works. And yeah, you can also submit a written comment, which will be read by LaTanya. Written comments can be submitted from any time at the beginning of the meeting, so basically now, until the close of public comment when the item comes up. Either way, you'll have 3 minutes to either make your public comment or have your public comment read. LaTanya is not out here to read the Odyssey, and so we'll get that done swiftly. So again, raise your hand virtually or *9, and you'll be able to raise your hand that way. Also, if we get Zoom bombed, we will close the meeting. No further action will be taken. Try to reopen it and remove whoever is causing the problem. And if we cannot do that, then we'll be shut down basically, and we'll continue the meeting on a different day. At this point, I'd like to get a roll call.
Councilmember Cook.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hunley.
Here.
Councilmember Agramonte.
Here.
Mayor Harvey.
Present.
Thank you. We can let the record reflect that Councilmember Harrington is absent this evening.
Yep, and she did let us know prior to the meeting that she would not be attending for personal reasons. All right, great. So we're going on to, we did the report on closed session. Can we get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Beautiful. And a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Cook.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hunley.
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte.
Aye.
Mayor Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0-1.
There it is. All right, great. Moving on to comments from the public. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda. It is recommended that you keep your comments at 3 minutes or less under state law, unless otherwise permitted under the Ralph M. Brown Act. The merits of the matters presented under this item cannot be discussed or acted upon by the City Council at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public will be invited to make comments at the time the item comes up for council consideration. Upon being acknowledged by the mayor, please step to the podium or raise your hand or start talking. In this case, unmute yourself and state and spell your name. All right, do we have anybody rising for general public comment? We have one, Mr. Allenbach. And let me get my timer situated, Fred. If Mr. Allenbach, let me get this situated. And when you're ready, go right ahead.
Thank you. I won't be taking 3 minutes. I just wanted to say that I missed being in the council chambers and getting to schmooze with you all before the meeting and take a look at Jeff's ratty folder that he has for his files there and crack on that and all the fun that I would have there. And so it's just good to see you, and hopefully one day we'll be back there doing that all again. And that's my comment.
We all shared a little bit of that. For sure. Thank you, Fred. All right. That was a shame. We just got that thing painted and beautified, and now we're kicked out. And yeah, I had my gavel for 2 hot minutes, and it's been removed. And I've got the magic clap now. All right, moving on to presentations. We have no presentations to wedding dedications at all. Look at
Nope.
you, Madeline. None. All right. Great. We'll move on to consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the council, staff, or public request specific items to be removed for separate action. At this time, council may decide to change the order of the agenda. Do we have anybody looking to pull any items?
I'd like to pull 4.4, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And I would like to pull 4.2.
All right, excellent. Duly noted. We'll go ahead and open public comment. Seeing no one rise to comment on the consent calendar, I'll go ahead and close it. And we'd like to get a roll call vote now, excluding item 4.2 and 4.4.
I will make a motion.
Okay, I'll go ahead.
All right,
So moved.
beautiful. Moved by Rachel, Ms. Councilmember, sorry, Vice Mayor Hunley,
And second,
and seconded by Councilmember Agramonte. Can we get a roll call vote, please, City Clerk Rebecca Barr?
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Henley,
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte,
aye.
Mayor Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 401.
All right, so moving on to item 4.2, adopt a resolution distributing growth management allocations for the 2020 to 21 development year. David Story, you taking this one? Sounds like you.
Yes, Mayor Harvey will have David Storr, our planning director, just do a brief overview and then happy to answer any questions that Vice Mayor Hunley may have. So turn it over to David. David, you have to take yourself off mute.
Yeah, thank you. Since the early beginning of days and time gone past 2005 or so, plus or minus, when the general plan was updated, there were a series of studies relating to sewer and water capacity that the growth management ordinance, if you will, or the housing allocation process was created based on those studies. And here we find ourselves 20 years down the line. Each year, a presentation has been made by staff to update the council as to where we are with respect to the 85 or even 100 at the time when it was first created, to where we are down to 65 per annum, as to where we're at relative to the permits that we've been issuing throughout the years, based on those capacity studies back in, again, the year 2000 to 2005 time period. The point of me bringing this up is because the ordinance does require every 2 years, beginning in 2005, a review by the city council to see if this growth management allocation ordinance, so to speak, if it's still relevant and tied to those particular studies. I think it's not going to take too much thought to realize that, you know, we're long beyond that time. And I know that some of those studies may have been updated, but here we are today, in the appropriate time in September of each year, staff is to report where we're at with respect to allocations. And those allocations involve, you know, little rules like you can't issue more than 165 in any one year with carryovers from prior years that were not used. We have provisions in there about 50% of when you get to 50% of your number of units that you want, that within 4 years of that, or 5 years, I believe it is, that you then submit a submittal application to do whatever it is you want. So in this particular staff report, I've just outlined where we're at for the development year, which is from basically September the 1st to August 31st, and how those units have carried on since 2005 or so to where we are presently. Clearly, we've not been issuing 65 a year. From 2004 to 2018, on average, we've been issuing 28 units a year. And that is totally consistent or below, if you will, the number that we can do at 65 units. So the point about this year's study that I'd like to point out is very simply that all of the people that have submitted applications for GMOs, if you will, have now all received them, but for one applicant that will still need to get some more in the next 3 years. That will then take them up to 100 units. And again, you're only allowed to get 20 units in any one given calendar year, or excuse me, development year, as I just outlined. So that concludes my general comments, and happy to try to answer any questions.
Vice Mayor Hunley, did you have a question?
Well, I'll just say why I pulled the item was that this just was a reminder that this is something that we do regularly, but and we've talking about it. I don't think that we've had this sort of review of whether it's relevant and whether it's fitting what our needs are today. And so in light of one of the properties listed on there being a rather large parcel, and it being anticipated that would be similarly large parcels on the south part of town, that we perhaps might want to be used efficiently, that it would be good for us to have a conversation about our growth management ordinance and how it could be, whether it is supporting the goals that we have. So I wanted to remind ourselves that this thing is there and that it's going to keep doing the same thing until we change it.
Yeah, and Vice Mayor Hunley, if I can, thanks. You just reminded me about the Saponi site. Kathy and I worked on an email that we sent to your council today that talked about that property no longer being within the control of De Novo Homes, or their Civic Properties Group, I think is their name. And that they did tell me that they believe that property is back again on the market.
So the 20 that were allocated, when did they apply for that?
Predates my arrival. They will need a total of 100. And so I think they've already got 50. This year we'll give them another 70. So they'll need to come back for 2 more 20s. Maybe they need 120. I forget. I put it in the staff report. The number's not coming to my mind at the moment. But they need to come back 2.5 times technically, or 3 times. I think they've got, I think it's 70 and 120. This will be, if they get the 20 this year, then they come back for 2 more 20s and then a 12, I think it is, or something like that.
And, before anyone, so the allocations, they have to be given prior to any of the use permit process?
Any development. In this case, you may have noticed that all of these GMOs have all been in lands between the city limits and the urban growth boundary. There's been the Merlot properties that have now received all of their 80. That's based on 20 units per acre, and there's 4 1-acre parcels. I believe that, and Doyle has received all of their 50 or so, I think it is. So they're ready for development if they want to, approach the city, in which case Doyle did, Zaponi did through De Novo Homes. And I'm in conversations with Mr. Merlot as we speak.
David, can you maybe just clarify the council in terms of, does a developer have to wait to have all the units before they can even apply for the use permit and start the planning process, or is that start the building permit process? So what is when does the gate open for a developer? When?
Yeah, they in the ordinance it says that I think once they've obtained 50% of their allocations, that they must submit an application for development within 5 years. The theory being is we don't want to be giving them away and development having no interest in coming and being developed in the city or outside of the city, for that matter.
So I believe that the growth management ordinance does not apply to affordable housing project developments. Does it apply to inclusionary units?
No, it does not. Those are exempt. In other words, build as many as you can.
Nice. All right. So
you may recall that we gave a waiver. Actually, what happened was the Sawhaw project actually was included, and then through action of the council, waived them all. So we were able to take that clump that we didn't use and put them back into our system. I think we did that 2 or 3 years ago, if I remember.
Interesting. All I got.
Yeah, and maybe just to wrap up, I think council staff's intention as we look at the housing element in that process, this is one of the policy pieces that as council embarks on that, it would be appropriate to step back and look and see how does this fit within that.
Yeah. This is something I brought up to David a number of times. I know, especially after Healdsburg did a GMO change where they exempted all units that are at 160% of AMI. That creates middle class housing and people that don't have to basically fight with people who have more money than them to be able to purchase homes. So yeah, I think there's definitely good reasons. And I've talked to developers that have struggled to put a large project forward, or a large, efficient, to use Vice Mayor Hunley's term, project forward. And it's something that's worth considering and definitely worth talking about. So I would support that as well. And yeah, I think it's great, and I appreciate this being pulled so that we can have this discussion. All right, do we go into public comment on this now? All right, go ahead and open it up for public comment. And I see Fred, no shock there, already hand in the air.
Okay, I had a few questions about this. I'm really curious about what the merits are for approving an annexation. And I chatted with some LAFCO staff today, and it seemed like that they would have really no problem with approving it unless the owner disapproved, and the city wouldn't be able to handle it. So LAFCO doesn't seem like it's going to stand in the way. But so I'm curious about what the city's merits are for approving an annexation, and as I understand it, the city would have to pre-zone it somehow, and I don't really understand how the city would stand aside and say, oh, look at this land and say, we're going to make a decision on your zoning. It would seem like it would have to be in cahoots with the owner, and they got their GMO units, and then it seems like it's almost a ministerial thing that the council couldn't just say, well, we don't want to do that because we don't like the color of your sneakers. If they've got their ducks in a row, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to be approved. So I'm just curious about this pre-zoning and what the merits for an annexation are, and how the council might be able to steer this towards the types of housing categories that we might want to have.
Thank you, Mr. Albach. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment. And did we want to answer Mr. Albach's questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I can give a response, and then certainly look to Jeff and Kathy for additional input. The ability to annex into any given city or the change of reorganization all goes to LAFCO, and 9 times out of 10 they will defer to the city on the environmental part, and they'll look with a close eye to the discretionary nature of what the city council has looked at. There is no obligation for the city council to annex land. It's a legislative act, and certainly the city staff will look at the annexation policies that we have in our municipal code and act accordingly. We are currently working with De Novo Homes on the 2.8 acres that they're requesting be annexed to the city. Again, we're starting that process where we're looking at the environmental work to go out to an RFP to determine if, through an initial study, if an EIR is required or not. And we will then forward a recommendation to the Planning Commission, who will then forward a recommendation to your city council on the merit or demerit. And we will certainly be looking at things like sewer and water capacity, traffic impacts, and the proposal under the ordinances that we have as far as inclusionary zoning or not, whether that makes sense to the city or not, based on our policies and our general plan and also in our zoning code. Happy to answer any questions, or if Kathy and Jeff would like to add.
So I have a question, Mr. Mayor. David, 2 things, unless I have this old thought in my mind. When you're dealing with annexation, it's not if we want them, it's if they want us. And if there are residents or, how that works. I've forgotten how that works. And could you remind me where this property is?
Sure. Let me start with the last piece first.
Okay.
So up until 8:30 this morning, we actually had 2 applications for annexation in the city from De Novo Homes, or Civic Property Groups, as the name was. They withdrew the application for Zapponi Serafini, which is 5 acres on the east side of Broadway, just south of Napa and Leveroni.
I've noticed that house has been vacated.
The second piece of property that is a 2.88 acre piece of property on the northeast corner of Napa and Fifth Street East. And there's a small single family home there with a couple of outbuildings.
Right.
And I think if I remember right, that's where we have a flashing red. The first part is annexations are purely discretionary, meaning you can say yes or no. And it's up to a landowner to knock on our door. There's two ways to get to LAFCO. Number one is to petition the city, or secondly, to go by a property owner directly to LAFCO, and they can do that without the city's blessing. It's not the most advisable thing for them to do, is to go through the public agency and have us be the advocate to LAFCO rather than going through the property owner initiated action. In the case of De Novo Homes, they've knocked on our door, submitted the fees, the full cost recovery thing, so that we get full reimbursement through their application. And at some point in this next year, we'll probably bringing this to your city council for your decision as to whether we as a city knock on LAFCO's door with this application to annex or not. And the council may choose not to forward the application to LAFCO for any action at all.
So if there were a lot of residents there, would it be they would have to vote on that?
Yeah, in this case, it's just the one property owner of the 2.8 acres. But if you're talking about, let's say, a 40 acre piece of property that's got 300 people living there, then yes, they would have a vote within that. On the other hand, another example would be Traintown, for example. You've got one property owner, 4 parcels. We could choose to bring that into the city through annexation without a protest. There's a streamlined process to do just that. And the property owner could be kicking and screaming, and yet LAFCO would basically, under the law, in my view, almost be compelled to annex that to the city. So there would be no protest provision if the property owner didn't want to come into the city for whatever reason. And the same with the situation I just spoke of a minute ago. If you got 300 people and there's a vote overwhelmingly not to be brought in, then I think the city council would certainly respect that and not force it under protest.
Thank you.
If I just may add one thing, Mayor Harvey, just because we've got the urban growth boundary out there. So just to be clear, these 2 annexations are annexations of property that are within the city's existing urban growth boundary, which is why this council has the ability to consider the annexations.
In light of the forthcoming anticipated annexations, this seems like something that we should talk about probably faster than the housing element item is going to move. So it's I think that we knew that this was something on our list that we could take another look at and see how it could better align with our housing goals, and I think that we should do it sooner than later. And also, I'll make a motion to approve this item.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hunley,
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte,
Aye.
Mayor Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 401.
Great. Moving on to item 4.4, adopt a resolution to accept bequest. That's a new word for me. From John B. Vanson's Trust and program the funding for a future cemetery capital improvement project.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for pulling this. I spoke to our city manager, Mrs. Capriola, this morning, and I was headed down the road to success in my head, and I was wrong. And so I want to draw your attention to the second paragraph, if you want. Middle of the paragraph, it starts with the expectations of the decedent, and he actually specified what he wanted to do with that. I had a totally other idea, and I actually underlined it, so I thought, well, that can't be true, but that Kathy said, yes, that's right. So I appreciate that. And so I looked at that, and one of the things, the reason I'm just bringing this up is because, as usual, we have some very serious problems with the cemetery. And I think you all received something from our city manager regarding the status of our cemeteries. And I think, there's no need to read them if you've seen them. I think it's pretty serious. So the reason I'm bringing this up, initially I thought if it was the $49,000, we might be using that for a study to find out how, and a strategy for this, for the cemeteries. And I find that that may not be true or possible. But I guess my request is, I certainly would obviously say I want to accept this request from Mr. Vason. I'm sorry, I hate not being able to pronounce his name, but I would like to sort of delay any discussion on the money as it moves forward. So that was just what I'm requesting. And
Yeah, so council member Agmani, just for members of the public that are watching, let me just kind of give a few little background information. So again, this is a gentleman, Mr. John Vason, and he grew up here, graduated from high school, and has left a gift in his estate as he passed away, 5% of his estate, which is somewhere about $50,000 or something. That's and so the first check has been cut to the city. So again, this is a decision the council gets to decide. Do you want to accept the check or not? This has taken a little bit. We have talked with and we've been working with Attorney Pistol out of Jeff's office. And the issue here, the original, the bequest basically was that he wanted to have this money used to provide a stairway and parking access and maintenance to the 2nd Street East entrance to the Mountain Cemetery. So staff went out and looked at that, and we had some conversations with some neighbors out there, and there's a couple of things that don't work well with his vision of what he wanted. One is a stairway out there. You run into ADA issues, and the $45,000 would take, kind of a drop of what would be needed, and it just was kind of felt like not really what a realistic thing to try to do there. Parking also, there are some parking places. We close a gate up there because we've had issues with teenagers drinking and hanging out up there. So having additional parking does not seem like necessarily a need. There are maintenance issues. There are some aesthetic issues that could be, there's some drainage issues that are causing problems to the neighbors, and an ability to maybe make that look nicer, some better signage, et cetera. So we did, our city attorney's office did have conversation with the estate attorney about some of these issues. And so my understanding, the way it's come back, is that the trust doesn't require any mandated use, though typically if you get a gift, you're trying to meet kind of the intention of what the giver gave. So here, what staff is recommending is, one, you accept the resolution accepts the gift. It authorizes either the city attorney's office or the city manager's office to do any signing for that. And then we're just saying to program the money in to be a capital project for the cemetery. Now, you decide that in the scope of that as part of budget for next year. My understanding, and I'm looking at Jeff, is, again, if council wants to go a different direction, you can program this. We could also just set it aside for you all to talk more about it and have a broader conversation in budget next year. So again, the staff recommendation, what's written in the reso, is just to program it generally in terms of for cemetery infrastructure, and to be determined the specifics based on future conversation and direction from the council.
And if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I hear what you have to say, but it seems as if it's a moving target, because we can't meet his request in any way. But maybe there's another way to find what needs to be done there. I know my suggestion is, I really feel was not appropriate, because it really is far away from the request. But so I just thought, I wanted to pull the attention to everybody. Valley Cemetery has no full burials. Veterans Memorial Park, no full burials. And Mountain Cemetery, no full burials. So I just think we need to know that there's more numbers that the council is now aware of that I think is really important, and we really need to have some type of a plan as we move forward. This may not be where the money will come from, but I thought I'd just pull it out. And I just wanted to say one thing, that Jack Basin was, let's see, he actually is deceased, passed away June 8th, 2018 at 3 p.m. after a memorial service at the Fort Myers Officers Club. In lieu of flowers, family requests donations to a favorite charity. And if you will, please take a moment to remember the men of the USS Utah, USS Raleigh, USS Tangier, USS Starling, and USS Hainesworth, who lived the rule ship first, shipmates second, self last, and fought so hard to guarantee the freedom we all have today. I thought that should be added to what we were talking about. So I move to approve, but with a request that we hold the money and put it aside.
We do have to go to public comment first.
Can I
Okay.
ask you a question? On the general subject of cemeteries, I know at one point this was on the list of things to have I think we probably even have a subcommittee about it to talk about the future of our cemeteries. What's the status of that?
Well,
There's been a subcommittee, and as council's fully aware, from emergency to emergency, that has taken us to have to deal with what is urgent versus sometimes what is important, because what's urgent and important. And then, so this is something that, I think I'm hopeful coming out of COVID, kind of after some point, maybe 21, this could be picked up sometime in 21 and some initial work. But council's going to be able to have a conversation. I think, with the new council coming on board, probably January, February, what are your initiatives? What are your goals? What do you want to spend your time on? And if this is one of those projects for the council, then that's something that could be picked up. There's been a number, as council knows, a number of initiatives that have been completed. Some from vacation rentals to tasting rooms to cannabis. So some of those key initiatives, minimum wage, there were a number of initiatives the council had over the past few years, and they have been completed. So it is the time for council to kind of put together their next 2-year plan and make a determination of what are your priorities.
so as city manager, I think you're aware, I don't know where my copy is. And David, I think you had a copy of the study that was done, and I don't even know when now, but it was a strategy to how we move forward with different suggestions. So that, and I think there have been a couple of subcommittees or ad hoc committees, whatever we were called. But as Kathy has said, you know what? We've had 3 horrible years. And I certainly understand that. However, I think it has the success of these cemeteries have a lot to do with our economy, because the answers now are you can't have full burials anywhere. And there are people who are not comfortable with that. So I just wanted to bring that up. That's why I'm saying thank you for just discussing it.
All right. We'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. I see Fred Albach.
I couldn't resist commenting on this because I'm somewhat of a local expert on the cemetery. You may know that I wrote the cemetery walking tour brochure, and I do an annual couple of tours for the Overlook Trail to benefit the Overlook Trail. And the cemetery is just a fantastic historical resource for town. I think that it's equal to the plaza in terms of its historical significance. And as I've walked through there through the years, I've just watched these really nice grave sites just fall apart. And they're with big cut basalt blocks from the quarries that are around here. And I would suggest that, the council think about allocating some of that money from this estate here to just going around some of the big stonework there that's falling apart, and get a nice crack masonry crew and go in there and fit these things back together so that this historical resource just doesn't fall apart under your nose. So you can look at some sites where people have done that, and they've done a very nice job, particularly up at the top, in the top loop. The family there put together some stones that had fallen apart. And you got a guy in there, Ernst Rufus, who came out to Sutter's Fort and owned land grants at one time, 2/3 of the Sonoma coast from the Gualala River down to Fort Ross. and then he owned a land grant in Glen Ellen as well. So you got some really substantial, interesting figures in the cemetery, and I would, and I know that it's not a current thing, and money goes where it goes. But the people who were there and who built it made sort of a compact with the town, and they lived full lives, and they participated, and I think they deserve to have their grave sites maintained well. And I just encourage you to allocate some of that money towards some of the more obvious upkeep items there, particularly with the big stonework on different grave sites. So that's my comment. Thanks.
Thank you, Fred. And I'll go ahead and close public comment because I see no one else. And I did have the opportunity to do the graveyard tour with Fred last year. And if you ever get the opportunity to do it, it's fantastic. It's a really new view of Sonoma. And there's my favorite gravesite up there. It's all a guy who used to work for PG&E, and it's all tubes. His little cross is like gas pipe fitting, and it's a very unique gravesite. But he was a PG&E worker and really proud of it, clearly. And it's awesome. If you see that one, that's a really kind of a cool. And there's some great stories up there. So, Fred, thank you for that time, and would love to do it again. And anyway, great comments as well. Do we have any additional comments on this item? We'll go ahead and move.
So is there a decision, Mr. Mayor?
Well, so, I mean, the way I'm understanding is that we have this money and we've talked to the trust and we are able to use it for maintenance to a certain extent. Yeah.
You can use it. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yes, that's true. The resolution that's before you, I think, addresses Councilmember Agramonte's concerns. The third point in the resolution, I think, does that, states that the city council directs, and now quoting, the city manager to place the funding in the general fund to be programmed during the fiscal year 21-22 budget process as capital or maintenance projects at the cemetery with further scope to be determined. That's broad, but it does clearly target this money to be used for the cemetery in some purpose. I think that's what the council member Agramonte desires. So I would recommend, if I'm right, that the council move to adopt this resolution.
Yeah, and I think we should have a broader discussion on what we want to do with it. I have sympathy to Fred's points about doing some general maintenance on the large stonework there, because I think it looks beautiful, and I think it is a resource, absolutely, especially a historical resource. And when I worked in hospitality, I would tell people it's a weird suggestion, but go to the cemetery because it's absolutely beautiful. And I also agree. You know, I've talked to my downstairs neighbor, and he suggested definitely that there's some monetary opportunities. There's a lot of people that do want to be buried in Sonoma, and there's opportunities there as well. So we do need to have a broad discussion of it. If my memory serves, it was Vice Mayor Hunley and Councilmember Agramonte that ended up on the subcommittee at the beginning of the year. But this year was one where we really got nothing done. It may have been David and Madeline, because I think it was previous and then it flipped.
Yeah, it was years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we need to pick it back up. It's been a year where it's been hard to pick anything up. We've been doing quite a bit.
And so that's why, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to bring it to the council's attention.
Good. All right.
And if I may add a comment on this bequest, which is very generous, and thank you to the person who thought of us. I would just hate to see it replace our normal budgeting for the cemetery and just go to things that we already pay for, because it seems like we have an opportunity to think about things that we perhaps haven't.
Yeah, no, the intention of this was not going to supplant current. This was going to be above and beyond. And then council decides what is that above and beyond. How do you want to program it?
Yeah, I would agree strongly with that. I appreciate that that's the motive, because it wouldn't fit with the thrust of this to do that.
No, that was not staff's recommendation.
Yeah, for sure. Good. I'm glad it's clarified. Thank you. All right. Movement. I think we had a motion already by Councilmember Agramonte, or do we want to do it again?
Did I say that?
I don't know.
Okay, I move to approve.
Second.
All right. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Henley,
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte,
Aye.
Mayor Harvey,
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 401.
All right, great. We are now done with the consent calendar. Moving on to regular calendar, item 6.1, discussion, consideration, and possible action to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sonoma adopting a policy for the approval and acceptance of memorials and donated improvements and authorizing the ad hoc subcommittee to work with city staff on the implementation of the policy. Kathy Cabriola?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Logan. I'm gonna, Mayor Harvey. I'm gonna turn this over to our Public Works Director, Colleen Ferguson, and Lisa Jansen, who is working on this as well. And again, just want to let council know, as you're aware, Council Member Agramonte and Vice Mayor Hunley are the council subcommittee that have been working with staff on this. So I'll turn it to Colleen.
Greetings, Mayor and council members. We're here tonight to talk about memorial benches and memorials and other donated improvements. I did put together a brief little PowerPoint. Rebecca, if sharing screen would be allowed.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, this will help keep us on track. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I know there's been an interest for quite a long time about having a memorial bench policy. Just a little background. Obviously, we see a lot of memorial benches in the city, especially along the bike paths. Some time ago, we decided that we had enough benches out there and stopped installing more memorial benches on the bike path. And so it's just kind of been in abeyance for a while. And so now we're picking it back up and talking about benches and other memorials, but talking specifically about what's covered in the policy about benches. So the policy says no memorial benches in Plaza Park. It says that the Montini Preserve, which has a limited number of benches discussed in the management plan with the Sonoma County Agricultural Preservation and Open Space District for benches on the preserve. So that management plan is something we are required to follow for the open space easement on the preserve. So the proposal or the policy proposes to go with those bench locations and to follow the same stone bench design that we see on the Sonoma Overlook Trail. And you can see one of those benches here in the slide. And then for the Sonoma Overlook Trail, the Sonoma Overlook Trail stewards have done a great job managing the approved bench locations on the Overlook Trail and maintaining the benches. So the proposed policy would keep that as it is, where those benches, maintenance of them, and any changes regarding memorial benches on the Sonoma Overlook Trail area would be led by the Sonoma Overlook Trail stewards. So in terms of specific bench locations that aren't on the bike path, that's what the policy calls for. As far as benches along the bike path, we have about 70 existing benches in parks and along bike paths right now. They're a wooden design. There's an image shown of a bench at Depot Park here, and you can see the bench, and then you can see a little plaque in concrete on the side in the ground next to the bench. The benches often, well, and there's a couple different designs of the wooden benches. Many of them are in disrepair and in need of maintenance or replacement. These little plaques in the concrete on the ground can be tripping hazards for people in the parks and walking around the benches. And so there's an interest in going away from plaques in the ground and to having plaques actually on the benches, which we do have in a lot of locations, but we have more of these plaques in the ground right now. Many of the benches don't get used partly because of their location, but also because there's a lot of benches out there. And we do have 21 people on a waiting list to get a memorial bench along the bike path. As far as the proposed policy for new benches along the bike paths, staff's interested in a durable bench design that would allow up to 3 plaques per bench. So we could have lots of memorials without having lots of benches. The idea, because we do have excessive number of benches in a lot of people's view. And we would have concrete pads under the benches for better durability for the benches, for weed control, so we don't have to try to weed whack under the benches, and to make the maintenance more streamlined around the benches. A policy would set a 10-year term for memorial donations. So someone would make a donation and a bench would be installed 10 years later. That term would be up. That individual would be given an opportunity to renew their donation, or that location would be made available to a new donor. If the individual chose to renew their donation, that'd be another 10 years. And after 20 years, that donation would stop and that location would be available for someone else who wanted a memorial along the bike path. The donation amounts are proposed to include the cost of the bench, the plaque, staff time, and 10 years of maintenance. If the policy is adopted and we were applying the 10-year term, we would try to notify the existing bench donors if we can find contact information for them, so they would have an opportunity to renew their bench location if they choose to. We're also proposing to create a map of potential bench locations that would be available for new memorial bench donors. And we would post that map on the city website so people can pick their location out of available locations for new benches. The policy does envision broad delegation to the ad hoc subcommittee that City Manager Capriola mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. And adopting the policy wouldn't result in us installing benches next week. There's quite a bit of work to do after the policy is actually adopted. So we're picturing from now till the end of December, we would be identifying locations. We'd be preparing maps of potential bench sites. We'd work with the ad hoc subcommittee to specifically identify a style and color of the new benches to be installed. We would put out an RFP, get someone under contract to install the benches. That would help us set the memorial bench amounts that we would work with the ad hoc subcommittee on. March to May of next year, we would be doing outreach to past donors and contacting the individuals on the wait list to see if they're interested in a donation at this time. And then sometime next summer, we could start installing new benches. The policy also mentions other unique donations. The Vallejo Monument on the plaza is an example of that. These unique donations would involve an application to the city manager. Any donations that are considered suitable would be brought to city council for final approval or disapproval. Any assets donated through this process would become the property of the city, and there would be a donor agreement associated with these assets. So that's a quick broad overview of the proposed policy, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And do you want to express appreciation to Lisa Jansen for her work on this?
Do we have questions from council?
No, none.
All right.
Oh, I
Rachel,
think-
we can't hear you if you're trying to talk.
I just wanted to, before we get into it, thank Madeline, because she's the one that's been driving this, and it's something like not unlike the cemeteries that needed to be done, and she has made it happen. And as you'll see from the policy, it's very detailed because these issues are very complicated. But I want to thank Madeline as my subcommittee partner for doing a great job on this, and it was wonderful to be part of it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I think our last duty, Rachel, is to go look at benches unless they've got a good idea, because the metal ones that are coated may work, but I don't know.
We have a lot more to talk about.
Great. So seeing no other questions from council, we'll go ahead and bring it out to public comment. So public comment is open. I can't see because we're sharing, but I've got nobody coming up, nobody raising their hand. So I'll go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to council. Any discussion on this?
I just have one thing, and Rachel, you certainly can chime in. I see the resolution, the second whereas this policy should be updated periodically. Could we say every 5 years or 10, whatever, rather than periodically? Because somebody will say, well, when was that periodically started? So maybe if we could actually say at 5 years, because after the approval of a 2020 resolution, or 10, whatever, but not periodically.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think we probably have a lot of things that say we're supposed to review them periodically, but have we? Probably not. So I don't know if it's, maybe like either 5 years after we adopted this or 5 years after we place a first bench. But makes sense.
So I think our recommendation, just make it 5 years after you are approving this, because there'll be a reso and a date, and that'll be far easier to track than the date of the bench.
Totally, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
So I think what we would do is we would be adding to the resolution that you're adopting the revised memorial and donate improvements containing Exhibit A, and then this policy
To be reviewed.
shall be reviewed by the council 5 years after its adoption.
I have one question. Okay. I have one question on this. Is there a limit on how many plaques can be put on a single bench? Very good.
The proposed policy calls for up to 3 plaques on a bench along the bike path, and broader discretion for the stone benches up in Montini Preserve.
Okay, cool.
Or if one person just wants it, that's $1,000. Is that right? Or am I wrong?
We're still going to talk about the amounts and set those as we go.
All right. Great.
And what I'll add about this policy is that the idea was to continue to begin allowing people to have this opportunity again, because we had closed the program because we had ended up with so many benches, and then we weren't really sure what we were doing. But that, which is where the idea of shared bench came from, which is a little bit different. In the past, everyone got their own, but it was more to allow more people opportunities, but also sort of building into so that the future city councils, these benches will be picked for their life, and then it won't be a situation like we have in some circumstances where things have happened in the past and then we don't have money to pay for it, so we have to find money now. So it's sort of looking ahead to like cover everything that you need, and so no one is ever having to go back and pay for something that someone else did. So I think it's pretty smart, and especially on the benches on the hill, we talked about more than 3, just acknowledging how limited those are, because I'm sure a lot of people don't want to see benches every 10 feet on the trails either.
Great. Yeah, maybe there's an opportunity in the future to look at options other than benches where people can more memorialize, but not make it a seat. So yeah, great. That's all good for reviewing, and thank you to the subcommittee for your work on this, and thank you to Lisa Jansen and to Colleen Ferguson, and yeah, and Madeline for pushing this, definitely. All right. Any other comments or questions? Great. Get a motion?
Motion to approve, and does that need to include an amendment about the 5 years as amended?
Yep. Thank you.
Second.
All right, roll call vote.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Henley,
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte,
Aye.
Mayor Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 401.
Great. Awesome. Moving on to item 6.2, consideration, discussion, and possible action to make an appointment of the non-voting youth member to the Community Services Advisory Commission and provide direction on the 3 existing vacancies. Turn it over. Is it Kathy or Lisa that's running this one?
I'll turn it to, this is our city clerk.
All right, great. Rebecca. Oh, there we go.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight we'll be in the council to consider making an appointment to the CSCC youth member position, and then also to provide direction on 3 other existing vacancies on the CSCC. In 2018, the City Council created a non-voting youth member position on the Community Service and Environment Commission. Since that time, there have been 2 young ladies who have served in this capacity. First, Jacqueline Torres, and most recently, Twyla Summers, both with seemingly with much success. Unlike other members of the city's commissions, the CSCC Youth Commissioner served a 1-year term from August 1st to July 31st. So during the months of July and August, we advertised the position along with the other vacancies in the newspapers, via press releases, the city website, and social media. 3 applications for the youth position were received from Alex Antonin, Charlotte Skorlich, and Laura Vega. From their applications and their answers, they all appear to be eligible for the position. However, only Alex Antonin has responded to my inquiries to date to verify that. If the council chooses to make an appointment this evening, the process would be a majority vote of the council. The council does have the option to not make an appointment at this time and to re-advertise if they chose to do so. Outside of the youth member, there are 3 vacancies on the CSCC. These are the alternate Councilmember Agramonte's appointment, who was Jack Wagner, and Councilmember Harrington's appointment, who was Ken Brown. These vacancies were included in the recruitment that was concluded in the months of July and August. During that time, 3 applications were received. However, none of them were eligible, as all 3 of these positions require the person to be a qualified elector of the city. Per the council's commission appointment policy, all of the commission and committee seats will be up for consideration in December and January, except for the direct appointments of Councilmember Agramonte, Vice Mayor Hundley, and Mayor Harvey, as those follow your terms. Staff is requesting tonight direction from the council as how they'd like to proceed with those. The option before the council is they can reopen the recruitment for just these 3 positions, to open a recruitment for all of the positions that will come up for consideration in December and January, and or do nothing at this time. It's important to note that if the council does choose to only open the 3 seats or do nothing, automatically per the policy of the council, the recruitment for all positions will be open up mid-October. So at this time, I would ask that that concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions for?
So I do have a question. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, Rebecca. So we have a choice this evening for one of the 3, Alex, Charlotte, and Laura. We can do that. There's those, right? So that's available to us. And only one has only replied,
Yeah, what happens is they answer during the process, they answer specific questions that by their answers, it usually shows you that they're eligible. And the eligibility for the youth member is they have to be between the ages of 14 and 18, and they have to reside in the, I think it's the Sonoma School District. That's how we did it through the commission and committee policy. From their answers, it appears that all 3 of them do, but I always like to reach back out to them and get ask them those specific questions and get a verbal reply. I have not heard from 2 of them.
So Alex is really the only one.
Alex is the one that's responded. I'm not saying that they're not all 3 eligible. She's the only one that has verbally communicated back to me, in writing, that she was eligible, met those requirements.
You have contacted them, obviously.
I have sent them all messages.
Well,
okay.
Thank you.
It's a little different time with being everyone remote and not sure where they're at with school and that kind of thing. So.
Great. Should we go out for public comment then? Public comment is open. Seeing no one rise, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Bring it back to council for discussion. Did Rachel just drop off?
I would like, you snooze, you lose. However, I don't want to be so draconian, but maybe because of all the things. I know we had, the Women's Club actually had trouble contacting people we had given money to. So, you know, kids nowadays, they have a lot of situations that they're not in command of. So I yield to the council on that. I would prefer we just do Alex, but I'm old and I don't think about these things anymore. So you guys can decide and I will go along with you.
I'm fine for nominating Alex. I think, you know, the response is really key. You know, all these, everybody that's on this list seems great and awesome, but I think just, you know, the responsiveness is great. And I think that's that's a piece of it, is being able to respond and be there. And so for me, that would be a major contributing factor. And I also thought that her application was one of the most complete, with the longest, you know, kind of the most effort put into it. And that should be rewarded. So.
And I would agree. I think Alex would be the best choice at this time.
Great.
To speak communication.
Right. And it looks like Rachel's back. Okay, good. Did you drop off for a second there?
Oh, I accidentally closed Zoom. I just did it to myself. I think that they all would be great additions to our CSEC, and I am happy to support the will of the council, but the person that I would nominate today would be Laura. I was, based on her written responses, I would concur for our representative. However, I think Alex will be a great addition to the commission, and I would be happy to support that motion when it comes.
Okay.
Okay, great. Do we need a roll
You wanna
call on that? And there's additional question of whether or not we want to go out for the 3. For me, I would just go out for what's vacant now.
So you're going out in October for everything?
Yeah.
I feel like we're so close to it, and we can do like a big push and get everyone on board to apply and get a big pool. So we're talking about the difference of a couple weeks at this point.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, the selection for this, I think that with this mixed success that we had trying to fill the position, that a big push might be more helpful.
Yeah, staff's recommendation at this point is you go ahead and roll this with the rest of the recruitment and just run a little light with the commission for the next few months.
And that's what I would recommend the council doing. I've got 2 months left, so but I think that would be fun. Count the days, Logan.
David's counting down the days. He's got a calendar. He mentions it. He mentions it every time. That's great. All right. Well, wonderful. So I think there's an agreement here from council. Do you have a motion, or do you have enough direction?
Move to accept Alex Antonin. Did we? Or
Second.
did we do that already? I'm sorry.
All right. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hundley,
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte,
Aye.
Mayor Harvey.
Yes. Great.
Thank you. The 401.
Congratulations to Alex, and I'm sure you'll serve our city well. And thank you to everybody who applied. We appreciate your interest, and I'm sure you would have done as well. So great. Move on to item 6.3, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding the city's position on proposed 2020 League of California Cities Annual Conference Resolution. City Clerk.
Yes. Good evening again. This year, the League's conference is going to be held in a virtual format on October 7th through the 9th. Mayor Harvey is attending on behalf of the city, and he is the voting delegate. It'll be at the business meeting, which will take place during the conference. During that meeting, the delegates will be asked to vote on one resolution this year, and this resolution calls for an amendment to the Communications Decency Act to require social media platforms to remove materials which promote criminal activities. It would limit the immunity provided to the placement of these comments here online. This resolution is sponsored by the city of Cerritos, and in a reaction to events that people using social media platforms coordinate locations, dates, and times for their planned criminal activity. This stemmed from they had a looting of Lakewood Mall, and then shortly after that, the city discovered online communications via Instagram that were promoting targeting the nearby Cerritos Mall. And they found them to be compelling enough that they went to undertake measures to protect the mall, and it cost the city thousands of dollars to guard against what officials believed to be a credible threat. So this resolution would put in place or ask Congress to make it so that those social medias had some liability if they were not to remove those. As the lead analysis in the packet acknowledges, there may be concern related to censorship. I can't say that word today. I'm having difficulty with that word. Censorship and First Amendment questions. So there were a few questions that the league analysts posed in the resolution for thought and question if the council was interested in going that, such as what would this resolution's impact be on free speech and government censorship? I can't say that word. And what are the expectations for cities when they receive information from a social media platform about potentially credible threat in their respective communities? Does the city become liable for having information from a social media platform? And what would the cost be to develop and maintain new social media data governance policies, including data infrastructure to store this information? And so tonight, the council is being asked to provide some direction to Mayor Harvey regarding this matter. And again, those questions are just some that the legal analysts from the league put out for thoughtful consideration if you're still interested. That concludes my report.
Questions from council? All right, bring it out for public comment. Seeing no one rise, we'll go ahead and bring it back to council. Comments?
I will not be supporting this. I think it makes sense in theory, but social media standards are disproportionately used against people of color in their on Instagram and social media or on Facebook. And I just feel that adding something else like this is going to be used in the same way, and that the underlying crime itself, if someone's aiding and abetting a crime, it's already a crime. So I wouldn't support it.
Comments from other council members?
Well, I like, I was sort of on the borderline, but I think from what I heard Vice Mayor Hundley say, it certainly makes sense to me. So I don't know. I don't believe I could support this. It's sort of light-weighted or something. I don't know. Maybe our city attorney, does that seem a lightweight? Well, I'm not asking. That's what I'm just saying. It's a comment.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think there's some concerns here too that you might have, I mean, social media companies already do a fair amount of surveillance, at least for like reasons of advertising and the rest of it. And digging deeper, the kind of platforms they'd have to build to prevent this from happening, obviously, if they had increased liability, there could be some significantly unintended consequences there that I could see happening. I do think, you know, some of the argument that they make that they're just kind of like a amorphous pass through, and whatever happens on their platform is what happens on their platform, and it's not their fault, is something that really does need to be discussed at higher levels, but it's not something that I'm an expert in or can really state an informed opinion on. But I think there's good reasons to be concerned with the kind of increased scrutiny here and the increased kind of potential for legal action to be taken against members of social media. So I'm comfortable with council's direction here so far.
Yeah, and I'm fine with it. I mean, taking no action. I'd rather say my vote would be do not take a position.
Okay, great. So at the meeting, I'll abstain basically then, and that's how the city of Sonoma will go. Is that comfortable for everybody on council, or is there a majority view for a no vote?
I'd vote against it. I don't know how they're going to do it virtually. In person, it's crazy because everyone just yells really loud and they're like, it passed. And they're like, how did you know that? Everyone just screamed at the same time.
Yeah.
You'll be more civilized when you do it.
Maybe it might be actually more effective because maybe they'll use a poll where you have to actually click on the screen.
That would make more sense.
Like the screen turns red for no and green for yes? I don't know. Sorry.
Madeline, would you rather us abstain or would you rather us?
No, I'd like a no.
Okay, well, we got 2 for no, and I'll go with that, and we'll do a no. And that's good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Do you want to, sorry, do you want a formal vote here?
I've got the direction I need.
Just checking.
Good for me, but
Good.
Yeah. All right, great. That's it. Regular meeting. Council member reports and comments. Anybody got reports out from the subcommittee?
Holy cow, it's 7:15,
I
Mr.
know.
Mayor.
I know. We did it. Madeline, there's this potentiality of a CRV thing that's going on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, as I understand it, and probably our city manager knows it better than I, but I believe that there is a grant for $1 million, and what they want to do is get a mobile unit to go to different sites for recycling. So it wouldn't sit on the site, say, for example, Safeway. And I think Safeway said no. I don't find that unbelievable. You know, whatever. But so that's how I understand it. And I might be able to expand on it more, because I think she said maybe somebody else is looking at it, but I don't remember who may have said that, either Leslie or you.
Yeah, so there's a couple, I don't want to name sites, but I think we have two active sites that we're talking to property owners about potentially being able to, and they're kind of like a cargo crate.
Right? Yeah.
And that you can, and basically you bring your recycled materials, you put them in a bag, you put them in, they get weighed, you get kind of a credit kind of that you can take and
That's
use. Right. So it's all, and so I can't remember in the moment, my apology, whether this is mobile and moves around or if it stays. I'm not sure about that one. My apology. I just don't recall that. So actively working on it so that we can hopefully have a site here in the Valley.
Great. And Madeline is our Waste Zero Sonoma or Zero Waste Sonoma representative. So
I can find out, Kathy, from Leslie about if it's mobile, or do you care? You don't?
I know that Travis, our sustainability coordinator, knows, and there's been a number of emails. I just don't recall that. Right. I thought it was mobile. I thought it wasn't going to stay, but then
that was the positive part of it, because then it's not going to sit. It moves.
Right, but it started to feel like it was going to be more permanent. So I don't know. I'll be happy to find out and send council an email so you're aware.
The big issue for us, it's $1 million. Sounds like a lot, but we're competing against Santa Rosa. We're competing, So it'd
be great if we could get it, because it's
Wouldn't it be?
You've been in touch with a lot of people that really want that CRV. So
yeah. Right, it would be so nice. Good. And something. The other issue is, what's Cal Recycle doing with our money if they don't have programs? That's all I'm saying.
Right.
When I was in Bend recently, where I was staying was collecting specifically cans and bottles separately from recycling, because they could turn them in and all the fees went to an organization, and that particular one they had chosen was homelessness support.
Yeah, they do separate glass recycling in Bend at residences.
It was impressive. Many bins.
Anything from legislative action or groundwater? No? Okay, cool. David, nothing? All right, great. SCTA, we're working on Measure DD, so that's going out. We won a legal challenge on some of the language that the opponents had gone after. They were completely incorrect on how the money was used, and it's been well oversighted and well leveraged under Measure M. And now with Measure DD, there's increased funding for buses and for bicycle transit, double plus the money for buses and triple plus the money for bike support, or for bike lanes and bike specific things. Plus a lot of the money for new street building, you are required to use at least 5% of that for bike construction, and all new projects have to consider bike and pedestrian. The other thing that I thought was really interesting from a report that we did with the buses was that 85% of bus riders are low income. So when you think about a bill that is a sales tax, which often can, be seen as something that is and is, disproportionately affects people of low income. It also helps them in this case because they are the predominant bus riders. This would help support things like the fare free shuttle. This would help support things like increased ridership. And the bus does stop at Los Guilicos now as well. So it supports some kind of the ability for the homeless population to move. So very, very important ballot measure, Measure DD, that's going out. It's for potholes, it's for roads, it's for bike and bus, and increased money for potholes as well. So very good measure, and we've been talking about that a lot at SCTA. Great. That's it. We got city manager comments or reports.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
City attorney, Jeff Walter.
Yes, Mayor, I just wish to say that the governor has recently signed some legislation putting limitations on what council members can state on the internet through social media platforms. And I'll look at that legislation in a little bit more detail and come back with a more informative report at the next meeting.
Interesting. Great. All right. And now we're going to close session conference with legal counsel regarding Friends of the Broadway Corridor versus City of Sonoma. Do we have any public comment on this closed session item?
No.
Nope. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Jeff, did you need to make a comment?
No, I think we are planning on leaving this meeting and then coming back under a different passcode.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Well, okay.
Same as the earlier one.
Same as the
Same
other.
as-
Oh, the early. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye. Goodbye. Shh.